Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, New England.
Hope you're all doing well. It feels like spring out there compared to what we've been through, doesn't it?
Ask me how I feel.
This guy, he's
ask me how I feel.
My pal here. Should I ask him how he feels?
Ask me how I feel.
How do you feel, Tom?
Very nervous. How come you asked? Did you recognize it? Ask
He
me
is
why
so
I'm nervous.
Why are you nervous? I know.
Our son is got the lead in West Side Story, and he opens tonight, and I'm very nervous. Ask me whether he's nervous.
Is he nervous?
Not at all.
No, he's
Absolutely. Are you nervous? Because his father's
Typical
nervous.
parent. You internalize it for him. Huh?
I have to do it for him.
What part does he play?
He plays Tony. He plays the man.
Oh my gosh, he gets to sing tonight, and all that, huh?
Tonight,
Does he kiss her?
tonight. Oh, that's a very.
How old is Jason?
He's 13. That's a very
He won't kiss
tender
her.
part. No.
Next year he would kiss her,
right.
not this year.
Objectively, he's kind of a combination of Laurence Olivier and Lionel Richie. Other than that, and Gregory Hines. Other than that, he's kind of talentless.
You're not a parent. Oh, we begin today with something kind of provocative. In fact, for me, very provocative.
You're going to behave yourself.
I'll behave myself.
All right.
But you know, most of us who follow the news, and certainly most women, are very much aware of the strides through a lot of effort that women have made for equality in the face of sexual discrimination and discrimination in the workplace, and you know the story. Well, there are three people here today who are qualified to talk about men's rights, and in particular discrimination that they say that men face. And I want you to meet Fred Hayward. Fred is the founder of Men's Rights Incorporated, a group founded to address the problems of men and reverse sexism, which I also have a hard time with. Sexism is sexism, but at any rate. And Carol Wasserman. Carol is an attorney with a wealth of experience in the area of family court. Carol, good morning to you. And Stephen Brown. Stephen is from Cape Cod, and he's about to tell us about his real experiences because he was in court for a long, long time. Look at this expression, too long.
Got out about 10 minutes ago, huh?
Through a divorce proceeding at the Cape. All right, Fred, go ahead. Tell us, what is this all about?
Already we have a point of agreement. I don't like the phrase reverse discrimination either. I never use that because that implies that there's something exceptional about discrimination against men, and I think that discrimination against men has been very typical.
All right, now,
so
what is this deal?
we don't like that phrase, but I think that you might... I think you're being misled by two things. One is the feminist notion that men's rights is the opposite of women's rights. And, you know, don't get defensive about the idea of men's rights. Men's rights is a necessary corollary to women's rights. We support all the basic women's issues.
I like human rights.
Yeah, we support all the basic women's issues. We recognize that men can't achieve liberation unless women achieve liberation at the same time. And we only ask for the same things from men that we're asking for women.
All right, but let me just say a couple of things. Women still make 50 cents, 57 cents on the dollar as compared to every man in the workplace. Men still control
and nobody
the
wants
workplace.
that changed more than the men in the men's movement.
Absolutely.
We recognize that men and women are interdependent, not competitors. I think that the feminist movement is making a big mistake by teaching that because women have problems, therefore men have advantages. The fact that you earn 59% of what I earn is not my advantage. It means that if I meet you, I become your provider object just as much as you become my sex object. You look to me to make up the other 41% that you're not earning, which then limits my potential as a person. And then it limits my relationship with my children because I'm the one who gets sent out to work because I can earn the money more efficiently than you, and I'm denied the opportunity to raise my children.
But the women in the workplace, the numbers are enormous, and 70% of them are there because they have to be. And then once they're there, bringing home the second income, they're stuck. They're there.
Well, but we're working very hard. You know, what I'm saying is that the men's movement is supporting the women's right to make more money. We insist that women make more money. Even if you don't want to make more money, we insist you make more money. So there's not that kind of threat.
What corporation do you run
The problem between the men's movement and the women's movement is that the women's movement is opposing equality for men, not that we're opposing equality for women.
Gee, I disagree. I talked to an awful lot of feminists, and maybe early on that was true, but I think women that really are feminists are coming around to human rights and to...
Feminist organizations
Carol, you're shaking your head.
Lobbying viciously against joint custody,
what are you?
which is necessary.
Really?
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. Women will never achieve equality in the job market until the burden of child care is spread evenly between men and women.
But at one point, now address this, let's get into child care, because at one point it was the man left.
That's a stereotype. You know.
Well, but it's only recently that
the man gets kicked out. Which, you know,
no, that men are now interested in being a father. Men are now coming around
but
to
it's
this.
only recently that women wanted to become truck drivers and doctors. When I graduated from...
I think we always wanted it, we just couldn't.
Well, that's part of it. That's part of it. When I graduated from high school 20 years ago, in a very upwardly mobile, achievement-oriented community, there was only one girl out of the 400 in the class that wanted to become a doctor, because they had 3 barriers to overcome. If they wanted to go into health, they never saw any girls becoming doctors. They saw girls becoming nurses, so it didn't occur to most of them. If it occurred to them, they were told that they didn't have the innate ability. You're irrational. You don't have the stamina you need to be a doctor. If it occurred to them and they knew they had the ability, they were told they wouldn't have the opportunity. You're not going to get into medical school. You're not going to be hired by a hospital.
Carol and Stephen, do you wonder why we invited you here?
Oh, I think Fred's putting it beautifully.
No.
I think your problem, at least the way you're addressing the issue, is that you're falling into the polarization, the polarity, the sense that men and women are adversaries, and one is in this corner, one is in that corner. It is reflected in a lot of the issues that are being addressed, the idea of somehow it is man's fault that a woman is making 57 cents less, and that there is no man or no person who wants to rectify that. You're taking an issue between male and female, and because you're casting it in what I described before as immutable differences, sex, it's by definition an adversary situation. That doesn't have to be the case. Unfortunately, that's so built into the social structure, and that's where I see it in the court system, that it's just another burden to overcome.
Well, I think there's an equalization we have to reach. I don't mean to sound polarized. I'm not backing off here. It's just that, wait a minute, we're still not finished with our fight. Now you bring men's rights to the forefront. What's it going to do to...
Because I think it's a necessary topic. You've hit a backlash at this point. At least in this Commonwealth, you've hit a backlash. The first illustration that comes to my mind is, some 7 years ago, Massachusetts enacted an abuse prevention statute, which in essence was to deal with family violence, violence in the home between spouses or household members. Most people who utilized it were women, battered women. When it was first enacted, I recall trying to get anybody to enforce it, to take it as more than a joke, was impossible. Police along the line would look at you and, well, no, this is a family spat. I don't want to get into this. It has gotten to the point, I'd say, where fully 50% of the abuse prevention complaints that I have seen in the past year or so have been tools, have been a way to get usually the man out of a house in a divorce proceeding, because everybody knows whoever stays in the house and stays with the kids inevitably gets the house and gets the kids.
But the other 50% are real.
And that's the danger of it, because you don't know what to take seriously anymore. You start crying wolf too often, and it ameliorates the intent of the whole statute.
What rights are men denied? Stephen, how did it happen with you?
I was married for all of 15 months. There were some difficulties in the marriage. I think it was possible for it to have worked out with more counseling and more time. However, into the divorce court we went. And
who filed?
She filed, which is another cute little statistic here. I personally did research at the Barnstable probate courthouse, and of the divorces that I researched, a full 90% of the plaintiffs were the wife. And I'm not sure what the explanation is, but to get back, echoing or rebutting your comment that it's the husband that leaves, it is the wife that files for divorce. At any rate, as soon as I walked into that divorce court, it was climbing Mount Everest. It was unbelievable. It went on for 5 years. It cost close to $28,000 for a divorce that never should have costed that much or lasted that long.
Well, see, what you just did was what I started out doing, polarization.
And it's because of the polarization and the adversarial process.
A lot of years of marriage.
The adversarial process in the probate courts today, at least in Massachusetts. In California, they have a family court or a mediation court.
Back, and I'm going to get a question in. It's the last thing I do. I want you to be specific and talk to me, Fred, about the actual rights that you feel men are being denied, because there's a lot of women sitting out there saying this is the biggest pile of you-know-what I've ever heard. We are being screwed left and right, so sock it to us.
All right.
Are we on television?
Yeah, but that's what a lot of people feel. Everybody feels gypped in the divorce
you
case.
listen?
So listen.
Okay, there are a lot of rights that women just take for granted without understanding what it's like. Celebrate your 18th birthday without handing sovereignty of your body over to the government for the government's use. Is a very fundamental. Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. Can you imagine? You spoke about women earn 59% of what men. There are a lot of issues that get women very excited. I'll give you one issue that would get women more excited than anything else, and that's if President Reagan said, I'm going to do two things that you women's organizations seem to be demanding. You want less emphasis on the military? I'm going to end the draft. and you want more available daycare. The draft is the government saying that
Equal
only
service. Oh, I
men
see. Equal
do not
service.
have the right to say, nobody can force me to carry out a traditional sex role. Women have that right. Nobody can force a woman into being a mother or into working in a daycare center, into spending her time raising children against her will.
Though the
But government
society
can.
pushes women to have children and kind of teaches her she's not
right.
complete
and
unless she does.
pushes men, and you know, and that's
that's
a
changing
serious
now.
issue.
Yeah.
The social and economic
Add-
forces.
add this one, too.
But legislation saying you're going to go to jail unless you spend 2 years doing that is something women don't have to deal with.
There's-
So that's one example.
there's-
All right, go ahead.
So there's one fundamental right that women have. Another fundamental right is the right to say, I don't care whether a child was conceived or not, I don't want the responsibilities of being a parent at this point in my life. I don't want to spend the money on it. Women have that right. That's what legalized abortion does for women. But after a child is conceived, a man does not have any right to take stock in his own personal situation and decide whether or not he wants the responsibility.
Well, let's be specific. What you're saying is that if a woman, apart from what anybody feels about abortion pro-choice, if a woman says, I want to have an abortion, a man has to say, whatever you want, darling.
Right.
But you're saying a man should have a right to say, I have just as much right to want that child as you do, and so where does he go from there?
No, that's another fundamental right. I didn't get to that one
You're
yet.
mixing the examples.
Yeah.
Well, but I want to get to that example, because that's something
okay, but-
people don't
all right,
think about, that a
yeah.
man has a say in a woman's pregnancy.
Now, it's the right that a woman has to say, well, I know a child was conceived, but I don't want the responsibilities of being a parent right now. I can't afford it, or I can afford it, but I want to buy a new car instead. I don't want to spend my money on a child.
Wait a
I
minute.
have a career. It won't
nobody
fit in
can
at this
judge,
particular
you know.
time of my life. The reasons can be
Or
very sound.
I've been raped and I'm the
No.
victim of incest. So hold
Right,
it. That's
or
blanket
whatever.
generalization.
No. It's a woman has the right to say, nobody is going to judge my reasons for not wanting to be
Terminating
a parent right
And a
now.
man in many cases, Fred, has the right to not pay child support.
He
and there are a
doesn't
lot of
have
women.
that right.
That's completely
He
untrue.
doesn't have the right, and I'm sure that you want to make
Carol,
sure he
you
doesn't have
address
that
this
right.
then in the
That's
courts. Are we
completely
geared
untrue.
up to deal with men that don't pay child support?
Not the way we should be, no.
Okay, so there are two sides then.
You
here.
are looking at the
Are you
issue, though,
familiar
as
with the Serpico case? Frank,
Well, the movie?
Frank
it's
Serpico.
the same guy, but he got himself
Yeah,
into
okay.
another fine mess.
Oh.
A single woman decided she wanted to become a single mother, tricked him into fathering the child, and then hit him with a paternity
Tricked him
suit.
into fathering the child.
Yeah, and there were
I mean,
witnesses.
he went to bed with her.
Yeah, she told him that she was taking birth control pills when in fact she wasn't. And she told people ahead of time that he established in court that she tricked him into it. The
Okay.
judge agreed with that. Okay.
Well,
he lost the child support
not good.
case. He's
Not
now
good, not
paying
clever.
over $900 a month in child support. And Karen DeCrow, who's the former president of the National Organization for Women, supported him as a lawyer. She said, now wait a second, we women have just worked very hard to make sure that no woman is ever going to be forced into being a parent against her will. You know, how could we now say that only men can be forced into this situation?
Right.
If she wants to be a mother, fine, let her be a mother. But once we legalized abortion, we gave women the sole power to decide whether or not they want to have children. And if you have sole power, you got to take sole responsibility. So it's not, she said it's not fair that he should have to pay child support. She wanted to be a mother, let her have the responsibilities. All the feminist organizations, however, lined up against him, and this is what they said. If Serpico didn't want to be a parent, he should have been sterilized. Now you can see that what I'm talking about with paternity suits is the exact equivalent of what women are talking about with legalized abortion.
It's only very recently that putative fathers, fathers of illegitimate children, you know, born out of wedlock, who have been determined to be the father of the child in order to pay support, have been given some sort of limited right of visitation or some sort of say in the way the child is being reared. It's been established for a very long time that as long as a person is found to be the father of a child, he's got an obligation to pay support, and he can go to jail if he
Stephen,
doesn't.
we have 10 seconds. Are you divorced?
Seconds. I am divorced now after 5 years, yes.
Were there children?
There is one child. He's 7 years old.
Do
Who
you
has
have-
custody?
She has custody.
Did you want it?
And I fought and fought and fought that for years and years. All I asked for was equal sharing of time with that child.
Do you see him?
And the court said, no, we're not going to have that. We're going to give custody to the mother.
Do you see him? Do you have visitation?
I see him quite often. I mean, more than most fathers do.
But it cost you $28,000
But it cost me
in 5 years.
$28,000, a lot of aggravation on both our parts, and absolutely unnecessarily.
Well, I think that's a sad case. We have to go, but I think it's only fair to invite all of you back and maybe get our viewers involved. So let's set a date for that, okay? Obviously, there's a lot to talk about here.
To be
and
sure.
Tom will bring the tape from my mouth. So.